Hello, everyone. Welcome back again. We're recording episode 28, and it's a very different episode. We are recording this just after we just did episode 27. The only difference is we're not going through match results or anything, and we don't have William, who had to cut out early because he's trying to get ready for our little time off that we're going to have together here for the next couple of weeks. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Heather, thank you again for joining me. I appreciate you coming on each and every week, and also being so willing to join our team here on the Wrestling Fans Insight in the Fans of Pro Wrestling Project.
I'm really happy to do it. It gives me something to do, and I really enjoy wrestling, so I'm happy to do it.
Awesome. So, Heather, let's just go ahead and we don't have any real questions come up yet, so let's just go ahead and talk generally about wrestling. When did you first become a fan of pro wrestling?
I watched when in the 80s when I was growing up. You know, that was like the thing to do. Like I think it was like on Saturday mornings. I think when it came on, I watched it a little bit. I never got to watch any of the WrestleManias because my dad, didn't let us. But like growing up, I watched that. But I didn't really get to watch in the 90s, but during the Attitude Era, because I got married at 19, and 19, so it was in 1994. And my husband, that's like, he didn't really like wrestling, so I didn't get to watch. I started watching again in like 2000, 2001, and I've just been watching from there. And then AEW came along, and I was just like, wow, this is totally different. And I've just been hooked since then. And I like AEW and WWE, and like, that's really not a popular opinion to a lot of people, but I just enjoy wrestling in general.
Awesome. So did you even get to watch WCW when it was around?
No, I did not. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, through clips and everything. And I'm trying to go back on Peacock and watch some of the stuff of it. But like during that time, like I said, I didn't really get to watch any of it.
Oh,
my husband, he just didn't like that stuff, and he was not trying to go too much into it, but he was like, he grew up in church, and they just didn't believe in watching that stuff. Just put it like that.
Oh, that's kind of understandable. Not to kind of talk about myself a little bit, but I had that similar situation. I actually became a wrestling fan, I would say probably about, I want to say it was right around 88, 89. Roddy Piper was actually big in the movie scenes, and that's actually who got me into watching it a little bit. But where I really got hooked was watching a Jake the Snake promo when they used to do recorded promos, and they aired them like in between the matches on Superstars. And then when I started mowing my grandfather's lawn, I want to say right as I was like 10 years old, he would invite me over, mow the lawn. Thereafter, we had like a lemonade and some vanilla ice cream. We would watch professional bowling, and then shortly after, we would watch back then, which was Jim Crockett Promotions, NWA, which was starting to transition into WCW. I can't remember what it was. I know Ted the Hillbilly Hill and BC Hunter from the Wrestling with the Truth pod could actually give us a little more history if they were here. But yeah, I enjoyed it ever since I was really little. I had to take a short break because the girl I was seeing at the time in that relationship, she was embarrassed for me. She wanted to change everything about me. She didn't like the fact that I was a wrestling fan and a bowling nerd. And sure enough, thankfully, when we decided to split our ways, that's what kind of saved me when I went into my depressive state. Was when I hit my darkest, I kind of went back to my old self. I went back to watching bowling religiously and professional wrestling, which saved me. I missed a few years of the great wrestling shortly after the whole WCW being bought out by WWE. and I still got quite a bit to make up myself going back to watch the old stuff. But yeah, I can kind of relate to where you haven't been able to watch a whole lot. Probably right about where I was watching it, and it was really getting good between the Monday Night Wars between WCW and WWF. Anyhow, enough about that. What was some of your best early memories of watching?
I really, my memory sucks so bad. But I did go back and I watched WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 2 and WrestleMania 3. And like just seeing those old matches, like with Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and all that, I was just like, this is like just so cool, you know, like it did bring back some memories of just some of the stuff. But like, I have a bad memory because I do have fibromyalgia and it gives you fiber fog. But like, you have a lot of hard time remembering some things. But like, just the WrestleMania 1, 2, and 3, like it was just so enjoyable because I do remember, you know, Roddy Piper, the matches, and like different. Bret Hart, you know, and Owen Hart, and just watching them wrestle is just like so awesome to me to like just to be able to see that again, and like I said, some of the memories, you know, are not so clear from when I was a kid, but seeing those 3 WrestleManias, just the nostalgia and all that, it was just awesome to me. So I'm trying to go back and I'm trying to watch the WrestleManias because like I said, I didn't get to see them. So I'm going back on Peacock and I'm watching WrestleManias, and I'm going to go back and watch the WCW and all that and just catch up on some things so I can be better knowledgeable on stuff.
Yeah, and that's sometimes what I've had to do is every once in a while if my wife is gone, sometimes I'll go back and watch all the old stuff that I remembered or kind of forgot. But that's been the best thing about the WWE network, which is now on Peacock. Go back and watch some of that stuff. It was some really great wrestling back then. I'd say Jim Crockett Promotions had their best year in '86, which, if anybody listens to What Happened When with Tony Schiavone and Conrad Thompson, there's quite a few episodes where they go back and point out what was really good and what wasn't so good.
My favorite, I'm sorry, I love Mean Gene Okerlund. He was my absolute favorite announcer. Like, he was just the best. I don't think anybody can touch him. I'm sorry. And if you have a different opinion, that's on you. But Mean Gene Okerlund was the man.
Wow, listen to Heather take it to everybody right now. And no, you're right. There was no. Well, I shouldn't say there was no better, but Mean Gene was definitely one of the greats on the microphone and as an interviewer. Yeah. And back then, you know, before dirt sheets were even around, you know, he was the dirt sheet. He had his 900 hotline to have every wrestling fan call in, but boy, you sure get charged up the butt if you got too wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mean Gene was definitely one of the greats. I would have to definitely say one of the better managers back then. I would say it was a toss-up between Jim Cornette and Bobby Heenan.
Yeah, those were both good.
Yeah, both guys definitely knew how to talk on the mic. They had their ways of being a heel, but also being a comedian at the same time. Bobby Heenan definitely could throw out some lines that weren't so great at some points, but most of his other lines definitely hit like no other. Jim Cornette, I would say, was definitely one of the best promo guys that could come up with anything right off the fly. The guy is so smart. I think he's one of them types of people that really has been undervalued. I think right now, if he were to find a way to have a working relationship with AEW, I think there could be a chance AEW could give WWE a definite run for their money.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I think, what is that other guy named? Is it Jimmy Hart?
Yeah, the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart.
Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Yeah, I liked him. I always thought he was funny. And then didn't some of the matches the wrestlers would go after him because he was always running his mouth at them.
Oh yeah, because he always had that annoying megaphone with him.
Megaphone, yeah.
Always having to use that damn thing.
Yeah.
It's already bad enough that his voice was annoying enough, but to amplify it with that megaphone, you just wanted to slap the shit out of him for it. You know,
yeah.
Kind of like with you every time you see Roman Reigns on your TV. You know?
Yeah. I'm telling you, I would love to Superman punch my TV every time I see Roman Reigns.
And there you go, another weekly take for Heather and the Bloodline segment.
Oh, but and my favorite Austin Theory, I could give him a super kick to the head.
You know, you're the type I like. You got that violent instinct in you.
I've had to. The growing up with two brothers and a sister, I had to have that.
If it's that Jon Moxley's your favorite wrestler, then, because I mean, hello, violence. GP's on pod.
Yeah. Forged in combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're joined by Carlos. Hey, Carlos, do you want to give people your Twitter handle?
Yeah, it's C to the LOS 77, so CTOTHELOS 77. It's a play on words on J-Lo, J to the LO, so that's where it comes from.
Nice. But Carlos has definitely been one of our longtime listeners. And we appreciate him tuning in every week. But Carlos, when did you first become a wrestling fan?
WrestleMania 3. I mean, it was like, I remember someone brought the tape over to our house, and I remember just watching Ricky Steamboat and Macho Man and Andre and Hogan. I was enamored right away. Being gay, honestly, wrestling helped me a lot to discover my sexuality, if I'm being honest about it. So I've always been a fan. I mean, Ultimate Warrior was really my first guy. And again, just getting, I became a fan around the time where he first started. So he was like my first superstar who I really got to see, start from the very beginning and then go from the Intercontinental title to the world title. So that was just really cool to see as a fan, seeing someone who was a mid-carder go to main event, and then when he beat Hogan. I'm a big WCW mark just because all my family was WWF, and then my family was WWF, and then one day I was watching TV on a Saturday and 6:05 Eastern time, 3:05 Pacific time, I came across TBS. And I fell in love with it. I mean, I love Sting and Flying Brian. Those are my guys. And then Buff Bagwell, too. So I've always been a big WCW fan, just because it was the alternative. I'm that guy. I like the Oakland A's instead of the Giants. I always look out for, I like the Clippers more than the Lakers. I always like the alternative more than what everyone else flows. So I like WCW a lot. And then it was just cool to see those guys, when the NWO came. So I've been a fan since then. So for a long time, I got a little bit out of wrestling. Honestly, I was going through a party phase living in San Francisco. So the early 2000s, I wasn't so much a fan. But, I mean, I was there when Eddie Guerrero won the title in San Francisco. I've been, so, I mean, I've always been a fan. I've kept it on to more, but AEW really brought my fandom back alive again. But, again, I like all of it. I watch New Japan, everything. So, and I love Impact as well. So, again, I just like, it's been in my breast, like I said. I've been watching it ever since WrestleMania 3.
Awesome. Yeah, I have to say, touching back on WCW Saturday night, like you mentioned, on 6:05 on the TBS Superstation, I have to say one of my most favorite memories was when Ron Simmons defeated Vader for the for the WCW Championship, when he gave Vader that power slam. I mean, it took me by surprise. I was not expecting a world championship title change on regular TV, and sure enough, there it was. And Ron Simmons.
And then back to what you were talking. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, Ron Simmons becomes the first ever, African American to win a world championship in a major organization, and that was very monumentous that night. And
I remember too being a fan, when you were talking about on the previous episode about 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 AEW having a light heavyweight title. I remember when WCW first brought their light heavyweight championship in, and it finally gave Brian Pillman a purpose, because before that he was always like a jobber. He was like a mid card, but he'd always lose the big matches. So for me as a fan, when they first introduced that title and he won, then he kind of had a purpose, and so for me that was a big moment for me in WCW, was seeing that cruiserweight division. Because again, it gave Brian Pillman a purpose, and actually to get to see him actually win a pay-per-view match and be highlighted was really awesome for me as a fan.
Right, and there was an episode not too long ago on the Wrestling with the Truth pod with BC Hunter and the Nightmare Jay Myers, where they were trying to give, trying to figure out what. I'm trying to remember now. My mind's gone to shit. They were doing like...
It was WCW, right? About the comparison between WCW and AEW, wasn't it?
No, I think it was more of what was WCW's most noticeable points, or their biggest points.
Yeah.
And one thing I think they kind of missed was WCW having that cruiserweight division, because...
Oh, absolutely.
That was a big... That was a big audience that WCW drew in, having the smaller guys come in, show what they could do in the ring. And I think... Go ahead. No, I think that's one of the things that we're missing in today's wrestling. Even though WWE tried, they just have not been able to gel it well. And I think a lot of the problem was they made it too exclusive on the network. And they really should have brought it either with the NXT or find a way to fit it in with either Raw or SmackDown.
Well, it's one of those things where again Vince McMahon just didn't value it enough. And again, I would love to see it come back with Triple H, but I think he's already kind of said it's not going to. But I would like to see them get their flowers, with Triple H. But again, it's kind of like what Tony Khan did too. Having the fast action is the same kind of thing that the cruiserweights brought. That the luchadors and stuff are bringing to AEW, or just everyone in general, like even the Young Bucks, just bringing that fast action is kind of what the cruiserweight division brought to WCW, and what was different for when AEW first started to what you were seeing on WWE products.
So, Heather, we know the Bloodline is your favorite currently.
Oh yeah, just love them.
But no, in all seriousness, we found out definitely Jon Moxley is one of your guys. Who would you say is your top 5 favorite overall?
Of course, Moxley. I like Bryan Danielson, and let's see. I'm trying to think. My brain. I have a brain fart every now and then.
Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, I like Cody Rhodes. I'll be glad when he comes back. I'm liking where Daniel Garcia is going, and let's see, KO of course, and Lord have mercy.
Grayson
Randy
Waller, right?
Orton. No, Randy Orton. I'll be glad when Randy Orton comes back. I was really liking what he was doing with Riddle. So yeah, that's it right now. And of course, I'm loving Bianca and Alexa and Asuka, but Alexa needs to find her place right now. She's not fitting in right now. She needs to find her place right now.
I totally agree with that. I think ever since Bray's been gone, she's been kind of a lost character, because they just weren't sure what to do with her. And
yeah,
it's really disappointing that I think they could have took that whole thing between her and Bray much farther than what they did. And this definitely shows how out of touch Vince was with the whole situation. But he only, I think it was pretty safe to say everybody knows that if Vince didn't like it, it wasn't going to go through, and he'll change it right away, blah, blah, blah. And
yeah, I feel like Alexa's kind of in a holding pattern right now, is what I feel like. And if Bray really is coming back, maybe that's why she's in a holding pattern, is that she's waiting for that, and then she's going to join him again, and maybe they go on to do something great. Because I did not like the way their thing ended with the whole turn that she did on him that cost him the match. What match was that? I'm lost on that.
WrestleMania.
Yeah, it was
WrestleMania.
It was WrestleMania when Bray was facing Randy Orton to get his revenge.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't like the way that ended. I didn't like that at all.
No, I think that was pretty much the majority of the fan base saying this doesn't make sense. Why would you have her turn on him so quickly?
Well, again, it's like the Vince McMahon book. It just didn't flow well. I think Randy Orton should have beat him. It was like, come on. But like I like what Seth Rollins said too about it. Like no, the one thing about the Fiend character is nobody ever comes out better for it. Like it derails Seth Rollins for years. Listen to him.
Right. Look what happened.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with him when the Fiend comes back too. Because they need. I think he should be Bray Wyatt, and the Fiend should be his version of the Demon.
Well,
it only comes out certain times.
Well, do you think that downfall on Seth was because of the way Vince McMahon wanted the direction to go?
Yeah, with the Fiend, just a lack, even like a lack of direction. It's like because when you put him against us, because the Fiend, they killed everyone from, and so against him in that feud, he just kind of derailed his face run. And then after that, he was kind of lost, and then they didn't know what to do. They did the Messiah thing. And he's had to build his character back slowly. But like, I think what Seth Rollins said was valid. Like nobody who went against the Fiend came out of it better. They all came out worse. It ruined a lot of people's momentum.
Right. And I'm sure some of that really wasn't on Bray. I think that was just more on...
No, it's just Vince McMahon.
McMahon, for sure.
Yeah. It's all Vince, because they would always fight, So again, I want to see it come back and just be a whole new thing. But I'm like you with Alexa and Asuka. They deserve better. They should be fighting for the women's title, not be... They feel lost to me right now. They're like a placeholder.
Yeah, they shouldn't be like in the tag team division. They need to be on their own.
I'd rather see them bring up what's her name? Indy Hartwell, and have her team with Candice. Bring back the Wave. Let them be a tag team. Go get Ruby from, if AEW, put her with Liv. And I was like, I think it'd be good if they put the women's with tag team partners. Girls need someone to watch their back too, so they can, intertwine the people. Even give Charlotte a tag team partner and let her get on the tag titles for a while. Get her off the women's title. Let other people have a chance.
Yeah, I agree. And who knows? We may see that happen now that both Dexter Lumis and Johnny Gargano are on Raw. Maybe
I'd love to see the Way come back.
Could you imagine if that all came back to life on that?
Yep. They could even have Gargano turn on Owens and then have him be like, Austin Theory's mentor, because maybe that's why he's been on a losing streak. There's so many ways they can go with it,
Oh, yeah. I mean, the possibilities are endless right now.
Endless. When they brought Imperium back, that was a good signal for me. They're going in the right direction.
Well, the thing I like that they brought back Tyrion. They brought back Scarlet. They had him ditch that Masters of the Universe costume, whatever the hell they had him wear on his debut. That was terrible as shit.
It was. It was. Those little S&M pays.
It went back to Vince McMahon's cartoon character ideas that.
He thinks it's funny, It's not funny. It's people's careers.
Well, yeah, especially when you release them when they tell you this isn't working for them, and then if you don't like it, fine, I'll show you. There's the door. So, Carlos, who do you have as your top 5 all time?
All time or current? Like all time?
Yeah, all time. What the heck, or whatever.
So my current ones would be I like Randy Orton, Becky Lynch, MJF, Moxley, and then Bryan Danielson. And number 6 for me would be the Acclaim. They're right there too. I love them as a tag team.
Nice.
And my all-time favorites, probably. Honestly, I love the Miz. I love me some Miz. I do. Just because everything he went through, again, from the story, like like getting picked on for eating chicken and being kicked out of the locker room, and just how he made himself. But definitely Brian Pillman, The Miz, Kurt Angle, The Rock, and then Buff Bagwell. Those are probably my top 5 all-time favorites.
Nice.
And again, for me, the cool thing about the Attitude Era was just like, again, I've always been kind of more of a mid-card person. Like, I love Kurt Hennig and all those guys. It was like, getting to see like Kurt Angle and The Rock ascend to the top of the card was so cool for me back in the Attitude Era.
That was when he was playing his dork character, wasn't he?
Oh, but he was so funny. I mean, his stuff that Brian Gewirtz wrote for him with the little cowboy hats and just his little liners, like wanting to play with little boys. His whole thing with Rey Mysterio, like, it was just so funny. Like, oh my gosh.
He done.
He had some good. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Then when him and The Rock would go at it, oh my gosh, so funny.
He was just one of those guys that picked up on wrestling so quick. Being from the amateur wrestling side, they coming into the pro wrestling side, or I should say sports entertainment side. I mean, that guy adapted so well to everything that he was willing to put himself into any situation, and he made it look good. It definitely...
And to be able to laugh at yourself, too, that's a big thing.
Oh, yeah. I got a chance to meet Kurt on the Jericho cruise, the last Jericho cruise that happened, and I'll tell you, that's one humble guy to meet if you were to ever meet some of your favorites. It was amazing to see how scrawny he kind of was compared to me. But,
yeah,
you'd think after you've seen him on TV for so long that you're expecting this really huge dude. And I think we were pretty close to the same height. But yeah, I was expecting a more buff guy than what I saw.
Oh yeah, but I'd also put Randy Orton up in my top 2. I love Randy Orton too. I forget about him, but because he's been around so long. But I love Randy Orton as well.
Yeah, Randy Orton, he's a very good talent all around. He can play a heel, he can play a face, he could play a tweener. I mean,
oh yeah.
At first, when he started, he was kind of one of those guys that got real obnoxious, but as he aged, he matured really well. He's definitely loved by everyone backstage and all that. And to see how well he gelled with Riddle as a tag team, because you would never expect that if that was the old Randy Orton. But the Randy Orton that we see today definitely have had more fun.
Yeah, you hear the stories about how I've listened to the other podcast where he used to like put his hand down his crotch to shake the new rider's hands. He was so arrogant, and just seeing how he's turned himself around now, and how he is like a locker room leader and someone who's willing to help put people over and work with people. Like again, back in my day, I like an arrogant guy, so I always liked him. But at the same time, it's just I like those stories of seeing people who turn their careers around and then learn to appreciate what they have. I'm all about empathy and gratitude and humility. So to see how he's turned his career around and he's more like that now, again, I want him to beat Ric Flair's record for sure. I root for that guy, and he's been a company guy. He was stuck on SmackDown for years, and he's still there. He's that guy who can just easily be elevated to the number one spot just like that. He's someone who I want on my team.
Yeah, I could not agree anymore. The guy, you listen to him on some of the podcasts like he did with Kurt Angle a few months ago.
And the Stone Cold one too. Yeah. It's just he's learned,
Yeah, that was a guy who was very humble in admitting how immature he was and what stupid shit he used to pull. And to see the guy that he is today is quite the 180 and definitely has made a better man of himself.
Absolutely, I agree.
Heather, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Now that we kind of talked about our top 5 in some ways, do you have like a top 5 for women all time?
Top 5 for women?
Yeah.
Let's see. Trish Stratus, Trish Stratus, Lita. Let's see. I gotta put Bianca in there. Becky Lynch and Lord have mercy. I'm gonna go ahead and put Alexa because I really liked Alexa, and I'm hoping they've got better things planned for her.
I hope so too, because we've already touched base on it. There's just so much talent right there in her that they can do lots of different things with
Is
her.
Mario there?
For my top five, I have to say it. My top is always going to be Bailey. She's just always amazed me from her NXT days. I wish I kind of got to see more of her independent stuff when she went by, I think it was Davina Rose. But that's a character that's turned up the volume quite a bit. Watching her be a shy girl at first, but then she has really turned up the volume being that hugger character. And then turning herself heel, that was quite the change. I would have never expected watching someone play that really happy hugger to a very mean heel. I would like to see her be a little more aggressive. It kind of felt like she was a little hesitant this week. Well, I should say this past week. But Bailey is definitely my number one. I would say my second all-time favorite would be Alundra Blaze, or also known as Medusa. She was one of those women that was probably just a little too early in the professional wrestling scene. I think if she was in her prime here in today's wrestling world, she would definitely give all the women a run for their money. Another one I would say is Sherry Martel, also known as Sensational Sherry. She not only could wrestle in the ring, but she was also a great manager, and she could make you cringe anytime she would talk. My number four definitely would go to Charlotte Flair. I know that will drive you crazy, Heather. Charlotte Flair is just one of those talent that's very athletic and could turn face and heel at any time, just like her father. I just hope they don't get too wild and having her be like having 16 time, being a 16-time women's champion, because that definitely would be overdoing it quite a bit, especially in today's wrestling. But then I would say probably my number five all time definitely would be Becky Lynch. Becky and Charlotte had some great rivalry, but we've also seen the real life problems they've had with each other, which is unfortunate. But Becky Lynch, who was not a very great wrestler to start off with, coming up to being the main event at WrestleMania a few years ago, along with Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair, they put on one hell of an excellent match there, and Becky becoming Becky two belts. That was an awesome WrestleMania moment of all time, especially with the women having the main event for the first time ever in a big event like that.
I was just saying, I like when Bianca and Sasha went up against each other in WrestleMania. That was a big time moment right there. Was it WrestleMania 38 that they went against each other, or was it 37?
Honestly, I don't remember. Do you remember, Carlos?
Either way, it was a big time match. Had huge implications because they were two women of color, and they got to main event WrestleMania, and it just had a big impact on.
That was
everything.
37. You talking Sasha and Bianca, right?
Bianca, yes, 37.
37,
okay.
Yeah. Tampa.
Yeah, that's why it had a huge impact on everything, and they just big main event. And it just the big impact on everything. On, like they said, the two women of color, and they had their main event, and everyone enjoyed it. And I know I really did.
Yeah, that was actually the WrestleMania before this, right? Because this was 38 this year.
Yeah, the first time they went to two nights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now.
Which is one of the benefits of two nights.
Yeah. Well, I think they took that idea from New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom, because I think that's a 2-night event, if I remember right, as well. But it would make sense to make WrestleMania a 2-night event. as big as their roster is and how big of a company they are now. But
But I like what they're doing with Bianca. I think they could maybe do a little bit more with her, but she's going in a good direction. I was hoping Sasha was coming back, but since they see that she's taken the WWE out of her name, I think that is a lost cause. Maybe for right now, but who knows what in the future she might come back. But I'm not seeing it anytime soon.
I think she's coming back. I think that's more of a sign that she is coming back to me. I think she's trying to throw people off.
Well, maybe you're right. I don't know.
Well, keep in mind, Survivor Series this year is going to be in Boston, Massachusetts. So
yeah, that is true.
I think we're going to see a very huge return right there. And I believe with her changing her name like that, I think it's a setup. I think we're being set up to see her come back. And if that's the case, Boston is going to get very loud that night.
Yes, it is. I know, but everybody started freaking out when she changed her name, and it was like, no, she's not coming back. She's done with WWE. And I kind of I was holding out, like maybe she's just doing that. Maybe she's still coming back. But then as it went on, I started like, well, no, she's not coming back. But I don't know, y'all are kind of giving me hope again.
No, I think it might be part of the thing where that's part of what she because if she gets to make her own kind of thing where she comes back, she probably she wants to probably recognize her Hollywood parts. I think that's part of why she's coming back. I think that's part of. I think it's part of the thing for her coming back.
Yeah, and now the question is, does Naomi come back with Sasha, or is Sasha going to come back with a singles run?
How much? $1.
I think she's going to go off as a singles run.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the question is, the funny thing is we've heard everything about Sasha, but very vague on Naomi.
You know what I think, and I hate this, but I think if Naomi comes back, she's going to join the Bloodline.
I knew where you're going as soon as you said I hate this.
Well, I mean, it was an obvious setup from Heather saying, I hate to say this, but there's always that but.
I knew where she was going.
Yeah. I to Heather's point, I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen. Or if we even see Nia Jax return and she aligns with the Bloodline. Although both of them could be legitimate and come with the Bloodline. They take the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships and take the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship.
Yeah. But again, bring them back. I would love to see Sasha come back as a heel. She's best when she's a heel.
Oh, yeah.
Let her be a heel.
For sure. It's hard to really buy her as a babyface.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I mean, she's like the Randy Orton of the women's division. She can fit either, but she's a lot better as a heel.
Maybe we should do our own episode of the buy, sell, or keep as the heel segment, like Ted the Hillbilly Hill did just not too long ago. But
oh yeah, why not?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting to see if they do come back. Like I said, I'm expecting Sasha back at Survivor Series. I can't really see her exploring any other options outside WWE. But of course, what would I know? I kind of think that would be her best fit right now, is to go back to that company. I think AEW's just a little too loaded. They need to utilize the women they have now. They do definitely need to be showcased a little better than what they are right now. But how do you guys feel about AEW's women's division? Heather, I'll let you go first on that.
The women's division has a great potential, but they are being underutilized, and that's why I'm hoping that with Saraya in there, that she is gonna be the Revolution as she says she is, and hopefully do make a change in there and get better matches, and the matches go longer than what they are. Stop all these little filler matches, these just quick matches. Give them more time. Give them better opponents, put equal opponents together, not have the opponents so mismatched that it's just obvious who's going to win. Just more time, better opponents, and more matches. That's what I think.
Carlos?
I think in the women's division, I think my biggest thing of it is I think Tony Khan does it because he has to, not because he wants to, and that's how it comes across to me. I think it needs a lot of work. I think they have he just needs to give more time to it. Like again, it feels like I like the women they have there. I just wish they had better storylines and it wasn't just kind of like an obligatory women's match. It needs to feel more natural. And what I mean by that is if the feud's call for there to be 2 matches on TV, let there be 2 matches on TV. It doesn't come across with a natural flow. It needs to just feel more natural and feel like something they really want to have there, in my opinion.
All right, we're going to kind of get to our wrapping point on this episode. I want to just go ahead and go through my credits real quick first. I want to thank Libsyn.com for allowing us to host our space on their server, or host our podcast on their server. I really twisted that tie. But also thank you to Pixabay.com for allowing us to donate and download and use royalty-free music from their sites from the artists of GVid and Light Saturation and Coma Media. I want to give a big shout out to Heather, who's been willing to co-host with us the last few weeks and is now a new addition to our team. Thank you to Carlos for always coming in, listening, participating in fan reactions. We can't thank him enough for providing feedback to us. Also, you can reach us on Facebook. Go to the groups, The Fans of Pro Wrestling. You can reach me at Twitter at John, JOHNWFINCITE, at John WF Insight. Heather, you want to give your Twitter handle out?
It's at Bama Girl _4 EVA. Bama Girl Forever.
That's right. Roll Tide, bitches.
Yeah, Roll Tide. Bitches.
In fact, you guys are number 1 right now, right?
We were number 2 because I think they ranked Georgia number 1 because of that bad game with Texas where we only beat them by 1. So they knocked us down. So I think we're still at number 2. But we did good yesterday, and then we got Texas A&M coming up. So we're going to see how that goes.
Nice. All right. Well, hopefully it will go well. They're faring off better than my Utes at the moment. But anyhow, moving on. You can also leave us a text message or a voicemail on our Google Voice account. It's area code 385-367-4772. Also want to thank all of the podcasting platforms out there. You can listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Deezer, Ghana, Rezo, Boomplay. We also have a YouTube channel. All you got to do is search for the Wrestling Fans Insight Podcast. It should pull us up pretty easily. Also, if possible on any of those platforms, please give us a fair rating and review. We'll even narrow those reviews out as they come in. And a big thank you to Carlos. Carlos, are you still there with us?
I am, yes.
You want to give our listeners your alias, your Twitter handle? Sorry,
my alias.
Yeah,
Kaiser Sozano.
Yeah, that's how old I am. We still go by alias or handles.
See, it's CTOTHELOS 77. C to the LOS 77.
And you also have your own company on there too, right?
Yeah, my charity, Conquer the No. Yes, my nonprofit.
Awesome. In fact, while we got some time, you want to explain to us what that's about?
Well, I'm just starting it, but I used to do charity work for the American Cancer Society for 10 years, and then a while back I just decided, why don't I do my own charity? So the whole idea is that it shouldn't be that hard to say yes to somebody that needs help, and so I'm just kind of getting started. But the idea is to kind of pay it forward. So the idea is if we help somebody out, they pay it forward by giving their time to another charity. So it's kind of like building that whole concept of giving back in the community.
Awesome. It sounds like a great organization you're going to have right there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's just getting started, but I'm going to have a lot of plans for it. So
Hell yeah, brother. Appreciate you.
everyone needs help, and it shouldn't be hard to say yes to helping people. So
Yeah, it definitely should not. I mean, it doesn't really take much to be kind or help others in need, you know.
and
And
the idea too is people, some people don't have money, but they have time to give, So that's the idea too, is that they can go give their time somewhere else or give some, just give back, We all have
exactly.
we all have something to give to this world.
What's up, homie?
How are you?
Cool. All right. Well, why don't we wrap it up on a good note here? Overall, are you, and we'll start with Heather first. Would you say you're more pro wrestling or more sports entertainment type of fan?
I'll say pro wrestling because I have been more. When, like I said, like I told you, and I don't think it was recorded, but I came back to Twitter for the whole AEW, WWE thing because I wanted to see what it was about. Because, like I said, they wanted you to pick sides. You had to be an AEW fan or you had to be a WWE fan. You couldn't choose both. Well, I decided to choose both. AEW at the time was doing more wrestling on a wrestling show, whereas WWE was all about the video packages, too many commercials and everything. So I'm more pro wrestling. I want to see wrestling on a wrestling show. But as here lately with Triple H taking over, WWE has improved greatly. They have been putting on more matches. So I'm just really excited to see where that's going. But I'm pro wrestling right now. But like I said, WWE is headed in a better direction.
And to your point on the wrestling, it was funny because when my wife last watched actual wrestling with me, I probably would say about a month or two ago I think it was actually either Raw or SmackDown, she goes, "So, do these guys wrestle anymore?" And I laughed and I said, "Very rarely, since, everything's gotten so pretty much non-competitive. Vince McMahon went back to his ways where everything's a promo and a soap opera, and I was watching wrestling back in the day when you could actually tell the story in the ring and not so much have to have all these promo segments." But that is a fine take, because one of my biggest gripes I've always mentioned in previous episodes is, okay, you got a wrestling ring right there, center stage. Use the damn thing. Get some wrestling going. Otherwise, you pretty much defeat the purpose of having the ring crew set up a wrestling ring. And
I mean, that's what made me mad. Like, I would go to a show and they would leave the wrestler standing in the ring while they went to the commercial, like, for a long time, and then come back and then still do a promo after they left the wrestler standing in the ring that whole time. Then they did the promo, and then you're like, okay, when is the match going to start? Okay, and then they'd have a short match, and then that would be it. Okay, is this not a wrestling show? Are you not supposed to be doing wrestling matches? Okay, what is the deal here? And then the whole thing, like I liked about AEW, action, action, action. They didn't have so many promos, all the video packages that WWE was doing. But like I said, WWE is headed in a different direction now. So I'm excited to see how much further it goes and how much better it gets. Because it's already headed in a different direction. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
yeah, I agree. And when they started doing the picture-in-picture thing with the commercial breaks, at least they're finally doing something in between and showing the fans what's going on. But you get every once in a while, like you mentioned before, they bring them out, then they go to commercial break. It's like, to me, that's kind of wasted time right there. And I don't understand it.
So I went to Raw in Knoxville, and I think it was Ronda Rousey was out there, and she stood in the ring forever while they did commercials and the video packages or whatever they was doing. She just stood there, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And then they came back and then she cut a promo and then and I'm like, okay, that was like totally dumb. Like she just wasted all that time and then she didn't even have a long match. I'm like, this is dumb. You know, you're supposed to be wrestling. This is a wrestling show. You know, that was like one of my biggest gripes right there. And then, like I said, with AEW, I got to the end. I'm not trying to be more pro AEW. I'm just saying at the time, AEW was having more matches and having more action. But I'm seeing WWE pick up on more. And then, like you said, with the picture-in-picture, you can now actually see what's going on during the commercial break, just like AEW does. So, like, it's headed in a different direction, and I'm ready to see, like I said, where it goes.
And Carlos, would you say you're more pro wrestling, or are you more sports entertainment? Uh-oh. I think maybe we lost Carlos.
Think so.
Oh, there he is.
I got busy. Give me 1 second. I can answer. If not, it'll be a couple minutes.
You're good.
All right. But definitely more pro wrestling, just so you know.
Samuel, do you want to speak? Wave or something?
I'm thinking it's a bot.
Okay.
Because I approved him, you've approved him, and it goes back to listener.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
But while we're waiting for Carlos to come back, sorry for so much dead air on the podcast. We don't try to.
And I'm sorry for talking so much.
I'd rather you talk so much, but I can't remember if we talked about the tweet that we have on our Jumbotron here in the Twitter space. But I'm going to talk about it again. It's from Jay Henry, at Jay Henry, JayHenry 79 on Twitter. He sent out a tweet that was really pretty much right, where we need to get the women's division going. Since we don't have Chris Statlander, Tony Khan should consider having Jamie Hayter be the one to dethrone Jade Cargill if the plan is for Storm to hold the AEW women's title for a while. Like the claim, she's over like Rover, and Tony Khan needs to strike while the iron is hot. And I have to agree. I mean, when you got talent that is getting over and it's getting heated, that's when you need to start going for the momentum of that talent. And I agree. Either have Jamie Hayter dethrone Tony Storm or have her dethrone Jade. And I think right now the better solution would be to dethrone Jade. Tony Storm is coming off a fresh title reign, defeating 4 other women, which one of them was Jamie Hayter. But to have Jamie Hayter go and dethrone Jade wouldn't be a bad idea. One, because you can turn Jamie Hayter face and go on to have a feud with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. And 2, with Jade's title reign and still being undefeated, it would be monumental to have Jamie Hayter be the one that ends that undefeated streak. How would you feel on something like that?
I think it would be cool for Jamie Hayter to take the belt from Jade Cargill. But then again, if Toni Storm is not going to keep the belt and Thunder Rosa is going to come back, then Thunder Rosa gets the belt. Maybe Jamie Hayter could go against Thunder Rosa and get that belt. Either way, I think Jamie Hayter is ready to hold a title.
I think she's been more than ready.
Yeah.
She, like I said, she's definitely been wrestling a lot longer than Jade, and probably some of the other women talent we have here. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to go back in her history and look it up. But yeah, I mean, I agree with that direction. let Hayter be the one that dethrones Jade if you're not going to take it off Tony.
Yeah.
But do we see Thunder Rosa coming back after she's recovered from
I
her injury?
really don't know. Like I saw where there was a whole big thing where they were saying that Thunder Rosa had asked for her release. Well, her husband actually commented and said, "Where do y'all get this from?" Because Thunder Rosa has not asked for her release, but I have not seen any timetable on where Thunder Rosa is going to return or anything. But she has not asked for her release. But like I said, I don't like the whole interim championship. They should have just went ahead and said that Toni Storm is the champion. And if they are planning on Toni Storm keeping the champion, then Jamie Hayter should go up against Jade Cargill, and I think she should dethrone Jade Cargill. Because not that Jade Cargill is a bad champion and she shouldn't have the belt, because she's absolutely proven herself. But it's gone on long enough, and like I said, the matches that she's had have not been long enough. So I think Jamie Hayter should go up against her, and I think she should be able to get the belt.
Yeah, to touch note on that whole release rumors, apparently that's not just the case with Thunder Rosa. Malachi Black also has come back to social media and say, I don't know where you guys are getting these rumors from, but I never requested my release. He said...
Yeah, I saw that.
He said the same thing as Thunder Rosa's husband. I'm planning on being back on AEW. I'm not going anywhere. So this is why I don't like to really quote dirt sheets too much, because these rumors can get bad real quick, and once they catch wind of that rumor and they say, for example, if it was me, I would expect them to roast me, because I'm out here saying something that's not true. And, that's the problem I have, is once one word gets out, it gets out to everyone, and we don't know, because we're not backstage. We don't know what's going on. And it can come back and bite you in the ass real quick.
Because he came out and he said...
You don't ever want to be on a talent's bad side.
Yeah, because he was like, I am just taking time. Like, what can you not understand about that? Nothing is wrong. I'm taking time for myself. I will be back on AEW. Y'all need to stop. That's pretty much was the brunt of what he said. Like, y'all just taking stuff and just going with it, and y'all need to stop. Like, I am taking time. What is so hard to understand about that? And that's just like ridiculous. People hear stuff and they run with it, and it gets twisted and twisted and twisted, and it just blows up into a whole thing that does not need to be. And then they have to come out and have to speak on this stuff themselves when they shouldn't. People should leave them alone. If they are saying they need time, they're doing this, leave them be. They are humans like everyone else. They deserve time to recuperate, do whatever they need to do, take mental health breaks, whatever. They are human. They need to be left alone when they need their time.
Absolutely.
I was just saying that, fans need to remember that the wrestlers are human beings too, and that they do struggle with their own mental health things, and that they, it's like, and they got to remember they're real people. They have real feelings, that these are their careers. This is how they make money. Just, have some empathy for these people. It's like, we don't need to know everything right away. It's like, just let these people live their lives, and just, just root for the people too. And don't just root for the company, like root for these guys if they can pull it out and be happy where they're at too, Like, and they do deserve some private, it's like we want to be included, but there needs to be a line of where you respect privacy and that you respect the fact that these people have the rights to that too, like HIPAA's a thing, too. Like, let these guys just, have some things that don't have to be in the public eye all the time.
Right. And, like you said, they're human. They need their personal time as well. And, I think sometimes fans don't see that side or see that part. No,
they're allowed to have good and bad days too, just like we do. It's like they can have a good day and a bad day. There's nothing wrong with that. Like they don't owe us anything.
No, I mean, it's one thing if they're like, I guess in the way to say if they're on the clock and or like at a meet and greet and all that. But outside of the ring and outside of any kind of, I guess you can say, appearance, whatnot, just be respectful of them. You know, they're out eating dinner, let them eat their dinner. You know, just do a quick mention, say, hey, can I just take a quick photo after you're done eating and all that. I'm not saying it's always going to work, but most of them were more than likely happy to do something like that, you know. But when you harass them on their personal time, yeah, you kind of, it will get you in a real quick deep shit list.
When I wanted to speak on too, when we was talking about mental health, the whole thing that AEW did for the Suicide Prevention Month, which was last month because we're in October now, but with Reth Aubrey and Powerhouse Hobb and Eddie Kingston speaking on the struggles that they've had with their mental health and everything, I thought that was a great thing that they did right there. Because it spoke volumes to me, because I've had my own struggles and with the depression and the anxiety, and even with a suicide attempt. I felt that really spoke volumes to me, and I appreciate what AEW and Tony Khan did with that.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, mental health is just, I think that's something as I guess I should say, today's society in this world needs really some more patience and understanding.
Need to break the stigma.
Right. We need to be more patient with each other, help each other out to where we can. I understand that not everybody understands what some people go through. And you don't need to understand. It's okay to not be okay. But try to, I guess the basic way to say is, don't be a dick, don't be a shithead, don't be an ass. You know, if somebody's trying to reach for help, try to help them go the right direction. If you don't feel like helping them, just show them ways or try to point them out to somebody that could possibly help them. It doesn't take much, but, you know, don't make it seem like they're being an inconvenience to you, you know?
Yeah, everybody goes through their own shit in their own way, and everybody deals with it in their own way. But if you're having a problem and you don't know how to speak about it or whatever, direct that person to the person that you think can help them. Don't make them feel any more shittier than they already do. And because a lot of people are uncomfortable with speaking about it, they don't know how to handle it. So maybe direct them to somebody that does. And I'm not trying to turn this into a whole mental health space, but since I know how to deal with it and stuff, I try to help as many people as I possibly can. And a lot of people don't want to reach out and go to therapy, or they don't want to see a psychiatrist, but it's perfectly fine. Get help. Talk to somebody. Don't suffer in silence. You need to be heard. You need to get help. And do not sit and not get help, because it will not help. Do not keep your feelings bottled up. You need to be heard. You need to get those feelings out, and you need to seek help. Because like you said, it is okay to not be okay. And
on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this episode. Again, thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time to listen or participate. Again, we'll be gone these next couple of weeks. I am going to try to do one more pre-recorded segment, which will air on the 16th. But we will be back on Twitter Space to do another live recording with all you wrestling fans who wish to come in, listen, and even be heard. So, with that being said, Heather, Carlos, my name's John. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you all next time. Go ahead.
Y'all have a good day.
Goodbye, everybody.